Torah at the beginning of our Parsha tells us that Yitzchak is the son of Avram, and Avram holided Yitzchak. Avram gave birth, was the father of Yitzchak. And that extra phrase is superfluous. Of course that's true. If Yitzchak is the son of Avram, Avram holided Yitzchak. Avram is the father of Yitzchak. And Rashi, always sensitive to the text, explains that the Torah had to stress that Avram was not just perceived as the father of Yitzchak, but was actually the biological father. Because there were Leitzanei Hador, there were scoffers in the generation who said that since Avram and Sarah were married for such a long time and never had children, and then immediately after Avimelech takes Sarah, suddenly they have a son. Obviously, it's the child of Avimelech and not the child of Avraham. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu made an ace. In order to show the Leitzanei Hador, these scoffers, that in fact Avraham and Yitzchak are father and son, he made their faces to be mirror images of one another. And the question is, it's obvious that Sarah was the one who had the infertility problem, because Avram had already fathered a child with somebody else. He already had Yishmael. So what were they trying to prove to these Leitzanei Hador? They already knew this. They couldn't have been Me'avimelech Nisabra Sarah any more than Avraham. The problem was with Sarah. So who are these Leitzanei Hador, and why does the Torah care to address them? What is a Leitz? Who is a Leitz? What's wrong with having a sense of humor? And we need to understand that a Leitz is not somebody who has a sense of humor. It's not somebody who could tell a good joke, have a witty one-liner. Those traits are, when used appropriately, valuable and laudable. A Leitz is a cynic. Now, the dictionary defines a cynic as someone who believes that only selfishness motivates human action, and who disbelieves in or minimizes selfless acts or disinterested points of view. It implies somebody who laughs, but doesn't laugh in humor, but in derision. He scoffs, doesn't want to take life seriously. The humor is inappropriate. Religion is not important. Gemara tells us in Sota that there are groups of people who are not zochel, do not merit being in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence in the world to come. And one of them is the Kat, the group of Leitzim, of cynics. God doesn't want to have anything to do with this person. Because cynicism is in reality a defense mechanism against having to think about serious issues. Being critical of oneself and looking for meaning in life. Those are critical components to growth. And that's a dangerous attitude. Doesn't mean that one has to be naive and accepting of everything that one hears. But to be a cynic and a skeptic, somebody who questions the validity of everything, not willing to listen and have conversations with an open mind, is a terrible, terrible trait, because it prevents growth. It's not easy to entertain the possibility that we may be wrong, or we may need to improve. But that's what the Torah is asking. And this is the lesson of the Torah. The Torah addresses those scoffers, the very people who see that Sarah's pregnancy is miraculous, because there's no other explanation. There's no reason logically to assume that Avimelech is the father of Yitzchak. But they want to deny it because it's more difficult for them to accept that God performed a miracle. These same people see that Yitzchak is a carbon copy of Avram. And yet, when Esav is born, they rehash their claims to Avimelech. How could this child come from Esav? That's why it's mentioned right now. Why does the Torah bother with these people? They're never going to believe. They're never going to come around. So I'd like to suggest that the Torah did not make the miracle in order to persuade the cynics. The cynics will never be convinced, and Hashem knows that very well. But rather, the Torah goes out of its way to show the rest of the world how ridiculous but dangerous these scoffers and cynics are. The entire world can see that a miracle has been done. Sarah finally has a child and has overcome the infertility challenges that she has had. Hakol Yodim, everybody knows, as Rashi says. But the Leitzanei Hador will try and undermine it, and try to take away and try to convince them otherwise. The miracle was not done to persuade the Leitzanei Hador. It wasn't done to persuade anybody, but it was for everybody to see the legitimacy of what they naturally understood and distance themselves from the scoffers. Is a miracle worth it for that purpose? And the answer is yes, because cynicism is so dangerous to our Torah lifestyle. Hashem shows the world, therefore, their baseless arguments in the hope that people will distance themselves from that perspective. There's no way to grow if we maintain a cynical attitude. We have to open our minds and our hearts to be able to realize that there are serious questions, that there are serious issues, that others can be right and I can be wrong. But it requires inner strength. And hopefully HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us the strength to conquer the cynicism that seeps into our lives from the outside world. We live in such a cynical society. And we should be able to learn and even to question with open minds so we can fill our lives with purpose and meaning and grow and inspire others to Debunking Hashem and understand how Kol Yodim, yes, it's worth doing a miracle, so we should avoid the pitfall of cynicism.